This is too weird.
Weird. We've experienced death. Now somehow we brought our sins back physically. And they're pissed.
Flatliners is a 1990 science fiction psychological horror film directed by Joel Schumacher that would have a star-studded cast and would find decent box office success. This film revolves around 5 young medical students who are attending medical school at the fictional Taft University and Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. Nelson Wright, played by Kiefer Sutherland, asks his friends and fellow students, womanizer but engaged Joe Hurley, played by William Baldwin, and humorous Randy Steckel, played by Oliver Platt, to help him with a dangerous medical experiment. Nelson wants them to kill him, and then bring him back to life with answers from beyond death. Joe and Steckel are skeptical that Nelson will even go through with the plan.
Look, there are a lot of others in this school who'd like to make a name for themselves off of something like this. Just seems a shame to me that people with the ability don't have the nerve.
All right, then. You want us there? We'll be there, Nelson.
Hey, speak for yourself, Joseph.
Sure, it'll be dramatic, Nelson. You cry, faint, puke at best, but then what? Because frankly, I don't think you have the balls.
You just bring the equipment. I'll bring my balls.
Nelson attempts to persuade Rachel Manis, played by Julia Roberts, to oversee the injections during the experiment, while also trying his best to woo her with his romantic interest.
Didn't I already say no to this?
Look, I've already got Steckel and Hurley, 2 of the top GPAs in the school. All I need you to do is handle the injections and the IV.
Forget it, Nelson. I have no interest in watching you kill yourself.
I think you do.
In the meantime, David Labratio, played by Kevin Bacon, is suspended for 4 months after he attempts to help a hemorrhaging pregnant woman before the doctor arrived in the operating room. An atheist and a skeptic, he doubts that Nelson's plan would work.
Look, I'm real sorry about what happened today, okay? I really am. What are my chances of making it back without you?
So don't do it.
I don't want to die. I want to come back with the answers to death.
Inside a secluded area on campus that is under construction, Joe, Steckel, and Rachel show up and watch in amazement as Nelson gives them a signed note of consent and prepares to go under.
I got some Shell D5W in the cooler. When my body temperature hits 86 degrees, you're going to hit me with 200 joules. The electric current will stop my heart. When the heart is dead, take the mask off. When the EEG flatlines, the brain is dead, I'll be exploring. Give me 30 seconds. Flip the blanket onto warm, take me up to 93 degrees, slowly. Inject 1 cc of adrenaline, and at 1 minute, Joe, you come in with the defibs, and you bring me back to life.
With brain damage, resembling in many ways a Cabbage Patch doll.
Not with a body temperature of 86 degrees. This letter absolves you of any responsibility, just in case.
This isn't for mankind. This is for Nelson. Why do I suddenly see you on 60 Minutes, sandwiched in between Andy Rooney and a Subaru commercial? Tonight, a brilliant young medical student who dared to experience death and come back.
David shows up, deciding to go along with Nelson's plan. Nelson flatlines, and during his death he sees visions of a boy he bullied as a child. After being brought back, he tries to describe what he saw to the other 4, with Labratio being the most skeptical. Joe goes next, experiencing visions that could only be described as erotic.
The experience was strange. It's almost erotic.
He's dead and he gets laid.
Once again, David is the skeptic.
Joe, did you find it difficult at the end, getting back?
No, not that I remember.
Oh, but you remember everything else, right? I think you guys are full of shit. I'm not buying any of this.
Yeah, well, I probably wouldn't buy any of it either. Unless I'd been there.
When Rachel decides that she wants to flatline next, David, also harboring romantic feelings for her, overrules her.
Now, what makes you think everything is always about you?
Because nobody seems to want me to go under. I don't need your protection, Horatio.
Well, there seems to be a lot of speculation about what you do need, Manus.
Oh, does there? And what did you decide in your infinite wisdom?
Well, I decided that when someone is as smart and as driven as you are, and incredibly beautiful, that it makes the rest of us very nervous.
Nelson begins to have visions of the bullied boy from his flatline, who attacks him and causes physical injuries. He tells the others that he was attacked by thugs on the streets of Chicago. When David flatlines on Halloween night, he sees visions of a young girl named Winnie Hicks, whom he bullied as a kid in elementary school. While Nelson continues to be beaten by the kid he once bullied, Joe begins to be haunted by visions of women whom he videotaped without consent while they had sex.
We don't have to do anything. We can just lie together, hold each other in our underwear.
I'll call you, I promise.
I'm tired of playing.
Of course I respect you.
You stop whenever you want. Joe's tired of playing. Joey.
Labratio sees a vision of the girl he bullied on the L train, berating him.
Shitbird, bird, turd face, kiss ass, brown nose, macho wimp, limp dick, bar face, turd merchant. What's the matter? Gonna cry? Come to cry, baby Davy. Cry, cry, cry. Shit face, rat, turd ass, licking son of a bitch.
When Rachel decides to flatline, David arrives late and attempts to bring her back earlier than she wished.
Waiting for body temp to rise, 89 degrees, aborting fourth experiment. Why, Dave?
Did you ask Dr. Death?
90 degrees.
What's going on, Nelson?
Nothing. Just bringing Rachel back a little early, that's all.
The perilous experiment gets even more dangerous when the power goes out.
300 joules clear. Got her. Beep, don't have her.
It's okay. It's fine. We'll get her.
Step me up to 360. Clear. What the hell is going on? What'd you do to...
Rachel has visions of her father, who committed suicide shortly after his return from the Vietnam War. She narrowly survives after receiving CPR.
Wait, what was that? Shh. I got something. I hear something. She's back.
The guys finally confront Nelson about their demons that appear to have been brought back from the other side.
I was on the train, and I heard someone call me names. I turned around, and I swear to God, she was standing right in front of me. Still only 10 years old.
Well, maybe it was a hallucination, or maybe you fell asleep.
I've seen some odd things from my past, too. I thought it might be brain damage.
In your case, it probably is.
I've been haunted by these images of women that I videotaped without them knowing. They're all members of the Joe Hurley video library.
What? What about you, Nelson? Who's come looking for you?
I think his name's Billy Mahoney. He's an 8-year-old kid we used to pick on in school. It's no big deal.
No big deal, huh? Then why don't you tell us what happened to your face?
Sometimes the little fella gets carried away.
Wait a minute. Wait. I can understand Dave nodding off on the train and pervert here having a couple of flashbacks. But you're saying this guy physically touches you? That is not a hallucination, and it is not possible.
Well, that's not possible.
And when did you know about this?
I had my suspicions after Joe went.
Before I went? Before she went, and you didn't say a word!
As Rachel sees visions of her deceased father and the demons get more and more violent, each must confront their sins and make amends and atone before it is too late. This movie was written by Peter Filardi and directed by Joel Schumacher. Producers Rick Bieber and Michael Douglas enlisted production designer Eugenio Zanetti and director of photography Jean Dubont. Their intention was to design sets and an atmosphere that would symbolically represent man's eternal struggle with death. They used a variety of historical architecture designs such as Greek, Roman, Gothic, and Renaissance, with dramatic lighting. Lighting in this movie is a significant predictor of what will happen in a scene. A deep orange color usually is a sign of promise and something positive, while blue usually means something bad is about to happen. When David LaBragio goes to visit with adult Winnie Hicks, played by Kimberly Scott, he mentions that they both went to S.B. Butler's school as kids. Writer Peter Filardi included this as a nod to his hometown, where there is a real S.B. Butler Elementary School near downtown Mystic, Connecticut. The school closed in 2021. This movie was filmed in Chicago, Illinois from October 1989 to January 1990. Val Kilmer turned down the role of Nelson, and Nicole Kidman was considered for the role of Rachel. Kevin Bacon works with Kiefer Sutherland in this film, and he did so again in 1992's A Few Good Men. Kevin Bacon's first film was the 1978 comedy classic Animal House, which featured Donald Sutherland, Kiefer Sutherland's father, whom Kevin Bacon also worked with the following year in the 1991 film JFK. In a Fangoria magazine article, Kiefer Sutherland jokingly described this movie as The Breakfast Club Dies and St. Elmo's Funeral. Funny enough, the 1985 Brat Pack film St. Elmo's Fire was directed by Joel Schumacher. Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland began dating during this movie. They ended up engaged, but ultimately broke it off not too long before their planned 1991 wedding. This movie came out during the heyday of Julia Roberts' skyrocketing film career. In March of 1990, Pretty Woman was released into theaters. That film saw the highest number of ticket sales ever for a romantic comedy film in the United States at the time, and it made $463.4 million worldwide. Flatliners was released while Pretty Woman was still in theaters, and Flatliners was in theaters just a couple of months before Julia Roberts' 1991 hit film, Sleeping with the Enemy. During pre-production, the actors worked with medical technical advisors who tutored them on the proper medical procedures for the scenes in which the students flatline on the EKG machines, signaling cardiac and brain death. The cast also researched published accounts from people who had had near-death experiences. Almost all accident victims reported a tunnel leading to a beautiful white light and friendly voices. People who had attempted suicide had troubled, emotionally painful near-death experiences. This was one of a handful of movies that were released in a little mini-cycle of Hollywood films that dealt with the theme of the afterlife and ghosts. Those films include Flatliners, Ghost, Jacob's Ladder, and Ghost Dad. Every one of those movies was released in 1990. Entering movie theaters August 10th, 1990, Flatliners grossed a total of $61.5 million on a $26 million budget. This made Flatliners quite a large box office hit. Flatliners was the 16th highest grossing movie of 1990, and it made more money at the United States box office than hit films like Goodfellas and Misery. This movie did receive a nomination in 1991 for the Academy Award for the category of Best Sound Effects Editing. I remember exactly when I first saw this movie. It was 2003, and I was about 14 or 15 years old. And my mother had rented the VHS tape of this from Blockbuster along with a couple other movies. I read the clamshell box from Blockbuster and the cast looked great and the plot sounded great. I had never seen it. It was a 13-year-old movie at the time. I watched this movie alone, in the dark, in our living room of our house at 2 a.m. I am not exaggerating when I say this movie scared the shit out of me. The fact that I was that scared and I was already 14 or 15 years old, that's pretty darn impressive for a movie. I really enjoy this movie for a couple other reasons too. First of all, director Joel Schumacher was a really fine filmmaker. He directed so many enjoyable and noteworthy movies, from St. Elmo's Fire to The Lost Boys to Falling Down to 8mm to Phone Booth. The cinematography is amazing by Jean Dubont, who himself would go on to direct the 1994 and 1996 hit films Speed and Twister. The scenes around the campus with the smoking leaves and that Midwestern autumn Halloween type feeling, it reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of Midwest 1990s autumn, and I love it. I think it's wonderful cinematography. Secondly, the cast is fantastic. Kiefer Sutherland is excellent. Oliver Platt is funny as hell. William Baldwin is probably my favorite Baldwin. Between this film and Backdraft and Internal Affairs, he's great. Kevin Bacon is good in every single movie role I think I've ever seen him act in. This was also what I consider peak Julia Roberts around 1990 to 1991, when she was in Pretty Woman, Flatliners, and Sleeping with the Enemy within less than 1 year. Julia Roberts was 23 years old during filming, and while I was never a mega huge Julia Roberts fan, as a natural dirty blonde, she looked fantastic with all that red curly hair. And I'm not a butt guy, but in this movie, her butt in those tight blue jeans, oh, good grief. Lastly, this is what I would call a comfort thriller. What I mean by that is, despite being a dark horror thriller film, I could watch this on more than one occasion and enjoy it. No matter how many times I've watched it since 2003, I find it very entertaining. I am well aware of the obvious scientific and medical errors in the movie, but I'm able to stretch my imagination just enough to enjoy this movie. This film is also very Gen X. Generation X, born roughly 1964 to 1981, all of the actors and the characters they portray, that is this generation, and it is a very Gen X movie.
We have finally found something worthwhile, something to upstage those fucking baby boomers.
I will go ahead and highly recommend the 1990 psychological horror film, Flatliners.